Hey everybody, my name is Jim Beavers. I'm a board member here at NSAI, and I have been asked to speak to you about the art of co-writing. And art may be the wrong word, but co-writing, especially in the Nashville sense that we songwriters do it. And from what I understand, this is a big topic of conversation for everybody out there, so hopefully I can shed a little light on everything and clear some things up. These are certainly things I wish I would have known before I came to town and got thrown into my first co-writing session. So I'm going to let you know some of the stuff I've learned over the years. The first question to ask is, why co-write at all? Most of us as songwriters begin writing by ourselves in our bedroom, on our back porch, or wherever it may be, being inspired with a guitar or piano, and it's a pretty solitary pursuit. But co-writing is a good way to not only make yourself a better writer, but your songs better songs. And there's a lot of reasons beyond that even to co-write. Here in Nashville, we co-write for two main reasons. Hopefully you're looking for another writer who has complementary strengths or weaknesses to what you do. And by that I mean, if you consider yourself a really good melody person, hopefully you can find somebody who is a great lyricist, or vice versa. Same thing goes with grooves, ideas, anything. There are certain writers in town who focus just on lyrics. They never get out an instrument and they never sing when they're in the room. But you know, as a writer writing with them, that is what they really are good at. And so if you happen to be a better musician or a better idea person, then hopefully you guys can get together and make one and one make three. So that's the song reason to co-write. Here in Nashville, and I'm sure any other place where music gets created, there's also political reasons and business reasons to co-write. In the same sense as somebody may have complementary strengths and weaknesses to yours, they may have relationships with people that you don't have. So obviously it's going to make sense to write with an artist who's about to record their album. That would probably increase your chance of getting a cut on their record. So that's a business reason. You maybe want to write with a producer, or just maybe somebody who has some kind of connection to an artist. So those are the business and political reasons to do it. Otherwise, also co-writing can be fun. It can get kind of lonely just being by yourself all the time. And it's just helpful to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. So hopefully you can find other people that you can create with, because if you ever do come to Nashville or any other music center, I can guarantee you there's going to be a time where you're going to have to get in the room with somebody you don't know and start creating a song. And it's just like a blind date. It's going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be weird, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So you might as well get used to it. That's the way it works. You're going to be hard-pressed to find a whole lot of 100% solely written songs, especially in Nashville. It's just not very prevalent anymore. So those are the reasons to do it. I'm now going to talk about, I'm looking off here to my notes, I'm now going to talk about how do we find a co-writer. The place where most people, including myself, started out was just writing with friends, other people that you knew were creative, that were interested in writing. One day or a night, whatever, you get together and you start making stuff up together, and you're going to end up with a song that neither one of you individually would have been able to come up with. So if you have other friends who are songwriters, just get together and see what happens. And I'll warn you, you could be great friends with somebody and terrible co-writers with them, and that is not uncommon at all. Also, you can have some people that maybe you wouldn't want to hang out with a lot, but you write really well together. I've found that to be the case as well. So you're just going to have to go trial and error about who you click with creatively and not. You don't have to love who you're in the room with for 4 or 5 hours. You know, you have to hopefully love what you do together. So just keep an open mind when you do that. If you're here in Nashville, there's probably a writer's night going on every night of the week. There may be writer's days for all I know, because there's a whole lot of songwriters here. So just go out to the restaurants. Obviously the Bluebird is kind of the top dog when it comes to that. But there's going to be performing songwriters doing what they do somewhere at a lot of different places every night. So if you go to those, guess what? You just put yourself in the room with other songwriters. Even if they're on stage, I can bet you that there's going to be a bunch of other songwriters in the room as well. So go to those, hang out, get to know people, say hello, buy somebody a beer. Just get out there and mix and mingle. It's just like any other kind of networking you've got to do. Just put yourself in a position where you're around other writers, and I guarantee you'll meet other people, and before you know it, you'll make appointments and hopefully start writing together. Let's see, there's also going to be workshops and things like the NSAI puts on here, where you can come up here, and I'm sure you're going to meet other songwriters and learn about songwriting, and all those are great opportunities to find people to create with. And then if you get to a point here in town where you have a publisher or somebody acting as your publisher, hopefully they are hooking you up with new people to write with. I write for Sony Publishing, and I bet half my calendar is booked with people that they have put on the calendar for me that I may not have known ahead of time, but it's somebody that my song plugger at Sony thinks I would do well with, or thinks I need to be in the room with them for whatever reason. And so that's a big way how maybe once you've started to have a little more success, people are going to be coming to you wanting to write. You're going to be able to go to other people wanting to write and probably have doors open that you didn't have open before. So as you move up the ladder, there's going to be different ways to meet people. A lot of times somebody just, tracks you down and says, man, I love that song, blah, 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 you wrote. And you meet them that way and you start writing. So just keep your eyes and ears open and be willing to meet people. I have seen and met people at the airport that I've wound up writing with, just different connections. It's just like any other thing. All right, let's move on to the nuts and bolts of actually co-writing. I'm going to talk about what happens in the room. What happens in the room when you go to that first co-write with somebody maybe you don't even know. A big question a lot of people ask is, how do you even begin writing the song when you get in the room with somebody? Usually, if it's somebody new, you don't know them yet, of course you do a little background chit-chat, where you're from, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Sooner or later, you got to get down to work, and somebody's going to say, well, you got any ideas you want to work on? You got anything that is turning you on, whether it's a musical riff, just a lyric idea. It could be a first verse that you already have. Could be a chorus you already have. It could just be that you say, man, I want to write a song like blank, a kind of an inspiration jumping off point. So sooner or later, you and the other person, or other two people, which is not uncommon to write with more than one other person now, have to just start talking about what you want to get done that day. So as weird as that can be, again, you'll get used to it the more you do it. And you both know why you're there. You're not really there to find out where they're from. You're hopefully there to write a song. So a lot of times it may just start with somebody holding a guitar and saying, well, I got this little thing, and it's just maybe one or two lines, or maybe there's no music involved. It's just, I have a title I really want to write, and the title is X, and this is what it's about. And you kick it back and forth with the other person. And, it's going to happen to where you may throw out one or two ideas, and the other co-writers looking at you like Mount Rushmore, and they got nothing for you. And then you may throw out what you think is the greatest song idea ever, and they'll just shake their head and say, I don't really get it, or no. And then that's your opportunity to say, well, what do you have? And hopefully they've got something. And so sooner or later, hopefully you come to a point where you agree on what it is you're going after. And it could be as simple as a groove on a guitar. It could be as simple as a chord progression. It could be somebody la-laing a melody. So it could happen any number of ways. The point is to just get the ball rolling in some direction. And I've had it happen where we'll write 4 hours on one song and just be banging our heads against the wall and get nothing, get nowhere past the first two lines, and then just look at each other and go, this isn't working, is it? And hopefully you agree it's not working. Or sometimes you go, let's take a break, go to lunch, and come back and look at it again. And maybe you come back and maybe you look at it again, you say, that is the worst song not written ever, and start over. Start a brand new song, or go home. So the hardest thing to get your mind wrapped around is there really are no rules. But I've had it happen where we'll write all day on a song and finish it up, and then some other thing gets said during the end of that song that somebody goes, well, man, that'd be a better idea for a song, wouldn't it? And you totally jump ship and start on that one. You may get a song done that day, you may not. It may take you 2 hours. It may take you 3 writing appointments. It may take you 6 months. So I would encourage you to, dismiss as many expectations of how things are supposed to be as you can, because they're not going to be that way. So that's how you get started when you're in the room. I'm going to talk about, I don't know why I always use this phrase, somebody else probably used it with me, and it's who's driving the boat. And the boat could be anything, really. I have learned over the years that it seems to me when a decent song gets written, there seems to be one person in the room, if it's a co-write going on, either one of the two or one of the three, or sometimes even four, that seems to really have more of a laser-like vibe or focus of where the song should be headed. It could be the person driving it musically, they could be driving it lyrically, they could be driving it idea-wise, just saying, this is what this song's about, this is what this song's about. So I would encourage you to learn to pay attention to who's driving the boat that day. And just because you're not driving the boat doesn't mean you're not a good songwriter. Actually, you're going to be a better co-writer if you realize and recognize when other people are the ones with the fire that day. And it could be anybody. You could be the writer in a room with 20 number ones writing with a person who'd never had a cut. But I'll guarantee you that very experienced writers are going to recognize when that not as experienced writer has something magic going on, and they know enough to get in behind them and help them get there. So although it's co-writing, my experience has told me there's usually one person who's kind of pushing it, and I would encourage you to open yourself up to being very sensitive to what's going on in the room that day, because if you'll focus on serving the song and not yourself, right? Not your ego, not what you thought things should be. Serve the song, and the song will probably come out better than any other way it could have come out. So that's the other thing I would say, besides how you get started with somebody. Pay attention to what's going on in the room. A lot of really good writers will say, I don't know why, but this is in the room. This is in the room. And what they're saying is that's what they seem to be feeling the vibe going to. So learn to pay attention to that would be a big piece of advice that took me many years to figure out. I would sometimes go into an appointment with a very specific idea of how a certain idea I had, of course, had to be, or where it was going to go, and I didn't allow myself to be open to the co-writer's ideas, and that's not the idea of co-writing. And almost every time I did do that, it would end up being something completely unexpected and usually better than I could have imagined. So open yourself up to the creative process and allow things to happen that don't necessarily come from you, would be some more advice. So you're going to be going back and forth. Somebody may be saying, hey, what about this as the first line of the chorus? And then you say, I like the back half of that, but I wish we said something different in the front half. Okay, like what? Like this. And then you just have to literally go back and forth. It should not be a fighting situation, hopefully, although you can get good stuff that way too. So it's just a back and forth. Hey, what about this? Yeah, I like that, but what about this? And then I guarantee you almost always somebody's going to say a line that both of you go, that's exactly what we're trying to say. Move on, right? So just literally co-create, co-write, trust each other. But if you have a very deep sense that something is not right, you've got to be willing to speak up, but you've also got to be willing to let it go in service of the song. And you may not get out of the room otherwise sometimes. So sometimes you may just say, all right, man, I don't get it, but I'm going to go with it because I trust you. And it may be right, it may be wrong, but stopping the process will not get you anywhere. So at some point, you've got to allow the song to be written. And, if you have an appointment with somebody where you guys just butt heads and can't seem to do it together, then you learned a lot that day. Don't write with them again. Real simple. So that's what happens in the room. I've also been asked to just kind of talk about what some of the rules are about co-writing. When and where to write. When I started writing about 10 or 12 years ago, everybody started at 10. Now everybody starts at 11. I don't know what happened. I don't know if everybody got lazier, but now people don't seem to go to lunch anymore either. So used to you'd start earlier than go to lunch. I would encourage you not to go to lunch. I've learned that it usually just kind of stops the process unless you can't get something going and you need to get out of the room. But if a song is moving and you're hungry, keep the song going and stay hungry. So just communicate with your co-writer of where they want to write, when they want to write. If somebody has an office, they'll say, why don't you come over here at 10 o'clock? Go over there at 10 o'clock. If they don't have an office, find somewhere to write. Just nuts and bolts. If you come into an 11 o'clock appointment and have to leave at 2 o'clock for anything, a doctor's appointment, tell them when you get there. Don't just wait till 1:45 and you're working on the second verse and go, hey, by the way, I got to leave in 10 minutes. That's not very respectful of their time. And probably how you guys were writing would have changed had that person known about that. So just be upfront if you have something else going on that day that you need to get to. If you're going to demo the song or not, I would hope that you would mutually agree on that with your co-writer. It's not cool to go spend $500-800 on a demo without your co-writer knowing it, because they're going to be on the hook for half of that. So communication, as in everything in life, is very important. You guys need to agree whether or not the song needs a demo, what kind of demo it needs, and that you're both going to be financially responsible for your portion of it. This is a touchy one in every other place but Nashville so far. This could change, and I'm talking about the publishing splits on a song. Who owns? If there's two writers, are you each 50% owners of the song? In Nashville, at least so far, we're still holding on to the crazy notion that however many people are in the room, the song is evenly split. And it served us pretty well so far. You're going to get your feelings hurt sometimes because you came in there and wrote, you felt like 95% of the song. Why is this other person getting an equal share? It's not fair. Maybe it's not, but who's to say how that song would have been written had they not been there? Even if they hadn't just been sitting there twiddling their thumbs. You have no idea, but you're going to have to get over that, or else you're going to have to be willing to start arguing over splits, and you're going to get a bad reputation, and nobody's going to want to write with you. I understand in LA and New York, it is much more common to chop up all the pennies and the percentages and have 8 writers with this percentage, and this guy did this, that guy did this, and more power to you. But in Nashville, I would expect to do an even split with the number of writers that were in the room that day. It's very unusual to have anything different. If you're bringing in an idea that you feel like you've already kind of formed, it goes back to what I just said. Even if you come up with a song 75% written and that person just helps you finish the last 25%, or if you finish the last 25% in front of them, it's still half their song in the way Nashville works. Is it fair? I don't know. You can decide that for yourself, but just be very judicious when you bring in your own ideas and realize you are, in effect, splitting them up when you bring them up to somebody else. Now, if you bring up an idea or play something for somebody and you end up not writing it and then you want to go write it again, that's where communication comes in again. You need to call that person that you tried to write it with the first time, say, hey, remember that song about chairs we were trying to write that we didn't write? And hopefully they'll go, yeah. I say, well, man, I still have that idea and I want to write this other way. Just want to make sure you're cool with that. 99 times out of 100, the person's going to go, dude, that was your idea. That's fine. Go with it. More power to you. Now, if you picked up an idea they said and you're trying to write it with somebody else, then you need to expect to split them in evenly with it. So again, communicate, be honest, and you'll probably be okay. That's about it for co-writing. That's about my time. Hope you learned something. And check in with NSAI if you have any other questions. Thanks.